The Untold Truth of Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford stole the role of Jack Ryan from another superstar. Public feuds between movie stars are nothing new in Hollywood, and since the 1990s, Ford has had one of his own with fellow actor Alec Baldwin. Baldwin, known for film roles like Glengarry Glen Ross and television shows like 30 Rock, is one of several actors who've played Tom Clancy's legendary secret agent Jack Ryan throughout the years, appearing as the hero in 1990's The Hunt for Red October. However, according to Baldwin's memoir, nevertheless, Ford swooped in and stole the role from him before the next film came around. Baldwin claims that Ford, who took over as Jack Ryan for 1992's Patriot games and reprised the role in 1994's Clear and Present Danger, went behind Baldwin's back to take the role during negotiations. In his memoir, Baldwin said that Ford lobbied for the role while Baldwin was busy still negotiating for the pay, and even says that Ford profanely told director John McTiernan to forget about Baldwin when McTiernan asked if Ford knew Baldwin was still in contention for the role. Harrison Ford regrets saying no to Syriana. Any actor with a long enough career probably has one or two projects they regret turning down, and Harrison Ford has been unequivocal about one of his biggest regrets in that area. In 2006, in an interview with the Irish Examiner, Ford revealed that he passed on 2005 Syriana and wished he'd taken the lead role after all. That role eventually went to George Clooney, who took home an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his work. As Ford told the outlet, "I saw a bit of director Steve Goggins' movie Syriana, and I wish I played the part that was offered to me, George's part." Ford was admirably honest about his regret, continuing, "I didn't feel strongly enough about the truth of the material, and I think I made a mistake. I think the film underwent some changes, and I think a lot of it was very truthful. The things that I thought weren't were obviated after I left the table." Harrison Ford's life-threatening injury in a galaxy far, far away. On-set injuries happen all the time. Unfortunately for Harrison Ford, he experienced one during the filming process of 2015 Star Wars: The Force Awakens. In June 2014, paramedics from the Thames Valley Police in Oxford, England, were called to the set of The Force Awakens after getting reports that a 71-year-old man was injured by a garage door, only to find Han Solo himself basically trapped in the door of the legendary Millennium Falcon. Ford suffered a broken leg and recovered after surgery, but that wasn't the end of the story. 2 years later, Foodles Productions, a studio subsidiary created by Disney to disguise the fact that they're making Star Wars, were held liable and accepted responsibility for what was eventually deemed a completely preventable accident, paying a penalty to make up for Ford's medical woes. Luckily, Ford recovered quickly, but the situation could have been much worse. Harrison Ford is an experienced and unlucky pilot. You know Harrison Ford as a hero on the big screen, and in real life, he's got a superpower as well. Ford is an accomplished aviator who's been licensed to fly planes for decades. Over the years, he's purchased several jets, typically flying out of a field in Wyoming, and he's even saved stranded hikers while out on flights, cementing his status as a man of many talents. However, notwithstanding every successful flight that Ford has taken, he also has plenty of accidents and errors on his record. Since 1999, Ford has experienced everything from failed engines to cross flight paths, and some of these incidents unfortunately seem to be Ford's fault. In 2017, Ford landed at Orange County's John Wayne Airport ahead of a commercial Boeing 787, and in 2020, the FAA investigated when Ford crossed the runway just ahead of another plane, proving that even experienced aviators can have a few preventable slip-ups. Harrison Ford's complicated relationship with Star Wars. Most Star Wars fans have heard multiple times that Harrison Ford has a relatively complicated relationship with the franchise that brought him worldwide fame and acclaim. As it turns out, Ford's bonds to Star Wars might be a little complex, but he still values the series that made him a star and handed him his career. Though Ford is infamous for mocking George Lucas' Star Wars scripts by quipping, George, you can type this, but you surely as hell can't say it. There's actually a second part to that story. After the fact, Ford acknowledged that it wasn't all bad, admitting, I was wrong, it worked. Not only has Ford spoken fondly of his time on Star Wars over the years, he was delighted to return to Force Awakens and even came back one last time to play Han Solo's ghost in 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. Despite his apparently curmudgeonly attitude towards Star Wars, it still holds a special place in his heart. An on-screen romance turned real. On-screen romances occasionally blossom into something more, and that was definitely the case during the original Star Wars trilogy, as Leia Organa and Han Solo, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford made one of the most dynamic screen couples in film history. Leia was never just a damsel in distress. Han was a little too irreverent to be a traditional romantic lead. Together, they forged a bond that helped fuel the entire franchise.
Who's scruffy?
In 2016, shortly before her untimely passing, Fisher finally revealed what many had already suggested or guessed. In her memoir, The Princess Diarist, Fisher wrote that she and Ford had an affair on the set of the 1977's A New Hope, while Ford was married to his first wife, Mary Marquard. As Fisher put it during an interview with People magazine, it was so intense, it was Han and Leia during the week and Carrie and Harrison during the weekend. In the aftermath of this reveal, Ford commented it was strange to relive the memories, but in any case, it's clear that Ford and Fisher's on-screen chemistry was no fluke. Blade Runner was one of Harrison Ford's hardest jobs. Based on Philip K. Dick's novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the 1982 cult favorite Blade Runner is still regarded as one of the best science fiction films ever made, and Harrison Ford's central performance certainly doesn't hurt. As Rick Deckard, a police officer referred to as a Blade Runner who's tasked with hunting extremely realistic human replicants and retiring them, Ford brought yet another classic role to life, later returning to play Deckard in 2017's Blade Runner 2049. As it turns out, the entire experience of Blade Runner was pretty difficult for Ford. In a 2017 retrospective on the film in Vanity Fair, Ford recalled, "It was a long slog. I didn't really find it that physically difficult. I thought it was mentally difficult." Ridley Scott's directing style didn't allow the flexibility Ford craved, and the production was plagued with problems, to say nothing of the reshoots that came later, as was the fact that the film flopped at the box office. It's no surprise that the original Blade Runner was difficult for Ford, but generations of sci-fi fans have thanked him for his efforts.